Hey guys, so we all know that the Canon M50 is a great little camera and a huge value for what you spend on it. But unfortunately, Canon hasn't been really supporting the EFM mounting system very well. I mean, yeah, there's a few lenses that they've released, but you don't really get a lot to choose from when it comes to the EFM mounted lenses. However, you may have seen one of these going around. This is a Sigma 16mm 1.4 aperture EFM mount lens. And as a Canon M50 owner, you might be considering purchasing one of these lenses. Question is, does it really make your M50 that much better? Oh yeah. Alright, so this is the Sigma 16mm 1.4 aperture lens. Autofocus going really well. The edge is looking pretty good there. Usually on some of these wider lenses, you get like a warp type of look. I mean, all in all, pretty happy with it. I am literally the only person on my street whose trash cans are still out. Pretty sure I'm the only person on my street though that has a newborn at home, so I feel like I get a pass. I've only had this lens for a short time, but I gotta tell you, I am thoroughly impressed with it. There's a handful of things I want to share and bring to reason as to why this lens is worth it. One of those reasons is it's a fixed focal length. Now, why is that a good thing? Normally when you purchase a camera, it comes with a kit lens that has a variable focal length. Like for example, the kit lens that comes with the Canon M50 is a 15mm to 45mm. That means on the lens itself, you can usually rotate a section of it and change the focal length and zoom in or zoom out. But these kit lenses, providing all these different focal lengths, aren't really able to give your camera the best results that it potentially could have if it were dealing with a lens that was designed and built to operate in a single focal length. So in that one focal length, that lens will really shine. These are what we call prime lenses. Prime lenses have one focal length, and in that focal length, that's what they're built and designed and made to work in, right? It's like the term jack of all trades, master of none. Well, a kit lens or a lens with multiple focal lengths is kind of a jack of all trades, but master of none. However, a prime lens, being a master of its one focal length, will be able to work most effectively with your camera to generate and create the highest quality image that your camera can possibly produce. And that's why a prime lens is ideal over a kit lens that has multiple focal lengths. Now don't get me wrong, there's great lenses out there with multiple focal lengths that are better than the Sigma lens, but you're gonna spend a few $1,000s on them. But to those who are just getting started in photography or videography, this is why you see photographers with all these multiple different lenses on their shelf. They're not just collecting them. It's not just to put in the background of their YouTube video. Like, they don't have any lenses back there. And it's not just a status quo. The more lenses you have, the better photographer you are. No. Each of these lenses serves a purpose, and each of these lenses has a different focal length for different scenarios. And the lenses with multiple focal lengths are more of a tool to be able to accommodate to many different situations. And that's what most photographers keep in their bag at all times, is a really good lens with multiple focal length. But if a professional has the opportunity to plan a shot to the T, they're gonna bring several prime lenses. So now to put things into perspective, I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the lenses. I'm gonna remove the kit lens from the Canon M50 that's currently set right now at 15mm with the Sigma 16mm 1.4 aperture lens. Ready? Boom, there you go. So, what do you think? This is the kit lens. This is the 15mm by 45mm lens that comes with the Canon M50, the EFM mount. So, a lot smaller lens than the 16mm Sigma that's on the camera now. I'm gonna go ahead and put the lens back on this bad boy. I'm actually very happy with the image. I like the good depth of field back there. Colors seem to be dead on. I'm not color grading this video for this reason. I want to be able to see the difference out of the camera right away with the color and the picture quality between the two lenses. So this video will not have any color correction or any color gradings. Alright, so what I want to do now is go ahead and put these two images side by side so we can do a side-by-side comparison of the two lenses straight out of the camera. Now to make a fair comparison, I went ahead and set the aperture to both of these lenses at 5.6 and set the ISO to auto so that the ISO can just do what it needs to do to get a good picture out of it. And I want to see which one of these two lenses is the camera needing to increase the ISO more to get enough light in to get a decent picture. Because with more ISO means more noise. So the lower the ISO, the better. So let's go ahead and compare. Alright, so again in this box here, we're at 5.6 aperture and the ISO automatically adjusted itself to 800. And in this box, we are the kit lens set at 16mm with an aperture of 5.6. Now on automatic ISO, the camera had to set itself to 1000 at 5.6 aperture to achieve the same results as the Sigma 16mm lens. So now here with the Sigma 16mm, I adjusted the aperture to 16 and the ISO automatically adjusted itself to 5000. Now I know these are two vastly different apertures that we're comparing, but I didn't feel like it was necessary to go through every one and see the small differences. I just wanted to see the big difference from one aperture to the next, just so we can have an idea. And in this box, we are set to an aperture of 16 as well. However, the camera had to set its ISO to 6400 to achieve the same results as the Sigma 16mm in the same aperture. So this lens obviously does not have it's not offering as much light as the 16mm, as much data and light for the camera to work with. There we go. So obviously at an aperture of 16, the depth of field there is kind of lost. It's not very blurry back there. Everything's looking pretty sharp. So I'd much rather have the background be more blurry and create some depth of field there. But either way, we're comparing how hard this camera is having to work to get enough light through each of these lenses, and obviously it seems like the Sigma is able to let in a lot more light, especially at, it's a 1.4 aperture, right? But we don't have it set at 1.4 aperture, but the lens is capable of doing that. Thus, the lens as a whole is more effective and lets in more light and gives the camera more to work with to make a good image, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about when we were talking about prime lenses versus kit lenses or lenses with variable focal lengths. So the last thing I'd like to just kind of touch on is the value of a prime lens for us as videographers. Now, we use gimbals and stabilizers very often to achieve smooth cinematic footage. With a zoom lens or a lens that has variable focal lengths, you can only use one of those once you have balanced your gimbal. You can't change the focal length of the lens because, well, if you do that, look what happens with this lens here when I change the focal length. So the length of the lens changes substantially, thus changing the weight distribution of the camera overall, which would then in turn throw off the balance of your gimbal or stabilizer. So why not use a prime lens or a lens with the fixed focal length that are known to have sharper image than a lens that has a variable focal length or zoom lens? So I'm really excited to create more with this lens. That 1.4 aperture I feel is going to open up a lot of opportunities, especially in low light situations. I'm waiting for my ND filter to get here so that I can slap that bad boy on this lens and push this platform even further and get even more out of my Canon M50. So the camera is a few years old, and again, it's not top of the line, but for the price, this is an amazing camera. And I'm really, really happy that Sigma came out with this lens to make this camera even better. And I'm gonna keep on pushing this thing and getting the very most out of it that I can. So those of you watching who are Canon M50 owners or are thinking about getting a Canon M50, I highly recommend it. And I also highly recommend getting the Sigma line of prime lenses for the Canon M50. It's just bringing every bit of potential that this camera has to fruition. It's amazing. So guys, that's all I got for you this evening. Thank you so much for watching, and y'all take care. See ya.